You know, in emergency rooms all over the world, there's this high-stakes medical mystery playing out every single day. The bad guy? It's a silent killer. And the real challenge is finding a reliable clue to catch it before it's too late. So today, we're going to join the hunt for a kind of super clue that could finally unmask one of medicine's deadliest conditions, sepsis.
And to understand just how high the stakes are, look at this number, 11 million. Let that sink in for a second. That's how many people die from sepsis every single year around the world. It is a staggering crisis, and it's why solving this mystery is so incredibly urgent.
So, what exactly is sepsis? Well, to put it simply, it's your body's immune system going completely haywire. See, instead of just fighting off an infection, it goes into this catastrophic overdrive and starts attacking your own organs, and that's what leads to life-threatening failure. Now, to really get why we need a superclue, you have to understand the culprit. Sepsis is notoriously tricky to pin down, which is exactly how it earned that chilling nickname, the silent killer.
And here's the absolute heart of the problem for doctors. Even with its devastating impact, there's no single, reliable, gold standard test for sepsis. It's like trying to catch a shape-shifting villain when you've only got a blurry photo. So how do you stop a killer that's so hard to even identify?
Well, that huge diagnostic gap has sparked an urgent, desperate search for clues. For years, clinicians have relied on a few key methods, but as you're about to see, these old-school tools have some pretty serious limits.
The two main tools in the detective's toolkit have been what's called the Q-SOFA score and the SARS criteria. You can think of them like checklists for suspicious activity, looking at things like breathing rate, blood pressure, temperature, to quickly figure out if a patient might be septic.
And sure, they're fast, which is absolutely critical in an emergency. But the big question just hangs there. Are these tools really good enough to catch a killer this deadly and this deceptive?
And the evidence? Well, it's pointing to a big no. Study after study has shown that tools like Q-SOFA are kind of like unreliable eyewitnesses. They just don't have the sensitivity to catch every case, which means this killer can literally slip right through the cracks. This is why a new clue isn't just a nice to have, it's desperately needed.
So this urgent need for a better clue is what sparked a landmark scientific investigation. A massive effort to systematically comb through all the evidence, compare every potential lead, and finally identify the single most reliable tool for the job. And when I say massive, I mean it. Just look at this. The investigators started with a mountain of almost 20,000 different scientific articles. They had to meticulously filter and screen and review them one by one until they had the 78 most solid, most crucial studies. We're talking about a really deep dive. And get this. Across those 78 studies, the total number of patients was more than 34,000. Now that huge number is key because it gives the analysis incredible power, making its conclusions way more reliable than what you'd get from any single study on its own.
And this is the really clever part. They used a technique called a network meta-analysis to connect all the dots. So even if one study didn't directly compare two clues, this network let them compare them indirectly through other studies, creating this incredibly powerful, interconnected web of evidence.
All right, so with this massive investigation all set up, it was time for the main event, putting all the contenders in a head-to-head showdown. This was the ultimate lineup in the search for our sepsis superclue.
In the ring, you had the old guards, the clinical scores, Q-SOFA, and SIRS. And facing off against them were 7 of the most promising blood biomarkers. These are specific things your body releases during an infection. You've got common ones like procalcitonin and CRP, and some newer ones like precipin and CD64. Each one was a potential key to cracking this case.
So after analyzing all of that data, after comparing every single contender from every possible angle, the investigation was finally ready to deliver its verdict. The moment of truth was here.
This is it, the central question we've been building up to. After all that work, which tool, which biomarker, which clue turned out to be the best detective in this high-stakes case?
Okay, but before we see the big reveal, let's do a super quick rundown of 2 terms you need to know. First is sensitivity. That's how good a test is at finding the people who actually have the disease. You don't want to miss anyone. Then there's specificity. That's how good it is at clearing the people who don't have it, so you avoid false alarms. You really need a good balance of both.
And here it is, the big showdown. Now this chart might look a little complicated, but here's all you need to know.
The researchers crunched all the numbers to rank every single test based on its overall performance. And as they did, one just shot right to the top of the list.
After comparing every single piece of evidence, direct and indirect, one contender clearly rose above the rest. The biomarker with the absolute best overall diagnostic accuracy was CD64. I mean, this chart just makes it crystal clear. They used a measure called a superiority index to rank performance, and CD64 scored a 10. That's more than double its closest competitors. So this wasn't just a small win, it was a total knockout. Okay, so we have a clear winner. But who cares about a bunch of charts and numbers, right? What does this scientific discovery actually mean for doctors, and most importantly, for patients? Well, the study's authors didn't pull any punches. Their final conclusion is basically a giant call to action for the entire medical community. They're saying, hey, we need to seriously reconsider adding these biomarkers into our screening process, because a better tool leads directly to faster, more accurate, life-saving decisions.
And that really brings us full circle. Because in the race against sepsis, every single hour, every minute counts. Having a reliable clue like CD64 could be a massive game changer, helping doctors act sooner and with more confidence. And that could save just countless lives from this silent killer.
Now, of course, more research is always part of the process, but this landmark investigation has given us the strongest clue we've ever had in the case against sepsis. And it leaves us with this one really hopeful, really crucial question. Could a biomarker like CD64 finally be the tool we need to unmask this silent killer for good?